Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm, and you're watching third and final part of What If Naruto Was Trained by Kyuubi after running away from Konoha. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Okay, here's the plan. Me and you have to go and destroy everything in sight. Then we take out Akatsuki. Said Hitomi simply. No. This is the plan. I cancel the cage bushin, go in there, blow Akatsuki to pieces, and then we move on to the Sound Village. She frowned. He responded to what she was about to say. I don't care how much you worry about me going in there alone. Akatsuki might have a way to extract you from a cage bushin. I don't like that idea. She sighed and nodded. This was it. This would be the end of Akatsuki. Stepping from the cave, Naruto cancelled the cage bushin and started running. He should be there in about an hour at the current pace he was going at. Just like he planned, he was there in exactly an hour. Stopping Naruto sighed and looked around. No guards or anything. He just hoped they were all there. Stepping forward, he walking inside the front door, which led down the stairs, into a cave much like Hitomi's, only smaller. And shorter. Personally, he was glad he wouldn't have to walk a half mile just to make it to the other end of the hallway. He walked until he heard voices. Using his chakra, he looked through the wall. There they were. The remaining 7 members of Akatsuki. Putting his plan into action, Naruto released half the weight he had, and broke through the wall, immediately slashing Itachi across the eyes to prevent him from using his Mangekyo Sharingan on him. Kisame and Deidara both attacked him, just as planned. Naruto put up his chakra shield to protect him from Deidara and started parrying Kisame's attacks. You've gotten strong, Naruto. You've gotten weak, Kisame. He said, grinning and plunging his sword into his shoulder. Kisame gasped in pain, and switched arms, tossing Samahata to his other hand. That was the only pause he needed, before swiping his sword through the Mon's torso and without pausing, moved on to Zetsu. Kisame laughed at his arrogance, before blood shot from his mouth, and his torso fell from his body. He was dead before he hit the ground. Dodging plant and tree roots, he got to Zetsu and made a quick demon seal. Kitsune Faya. He let out a blast of fire, leaving nothing but a black mark on the ground where the thing once stood. He noticed Hidan transforming, and cut off his head and limbs, before crushing his head beneath his heel. Not wanting to take any chances, he also set fire to Hidan, thankful that he'd done this before he could transform. Naruto then turned to the figure hiding in the shadows, and slammed his foot into the blue-haired being. Slamming his other foot into his head, it exploded in a mass of blood. Kakuzu was next on his list. Cutting down with his sword, Naruto relieved him of the skin on his back and the masks. Throwing salt into the wound, the man was taken care of for the moment as his screams of pain echoed through the lair. You would need a force unknown to anything in this universe to destroy me, said the leader as Naruto turned towards him. The clay bird were still bouncing off Naruto's shield. This guy couldn't take a hint. Naruto laughed. I've got it. But I feel like playing around first. With that, Naruto released all of his weights and sent chakra to his eyes so he'd be able to keep up with his speed. When he did, however, Naruto noticed something amazing. He'd stopped time. Thinking things over, Naruto rethought this. He couldn't have stopped time just by releasing weights. Looking around, Naruto realized what was going on. He was moving so fast, it seemed as though time had stopped. He took a step and nearly screamed in pain. Naruto realized then that he was moving so fast, the force of movement took a toll on his body, like Lee when he released his gates. Adding a few hundred pounds to slow him down a little, Naruto tried again. It still hurt, but not as bad. Running towards the leader, he stuck a hand full of senbon in painful places. He wouldn't be having kids anytime soon. Not that he would live anyway. Walking around, he pulled all the rings from the fingers of the Akatsuki members. Somehow, the ones he'd killed's rings were still in perfect shape. He collected them and stuck them in a leather bag, drawing the string. He went back to where he was originally standing, and put all the weight he had on originally back on. The leader gasped in pain. Betcha that felt good, didn't it? He said, chuckling. Looking at the remaining people in annoyance, he realized that Hidan was somehow still alive, as his head was sitting up from the charred piece of ground beneath his stump of a neck. 5 people left. And it'll only take one attack to rid me of all of you. Except you, Itachi. I need something from you. With that, he pulled a syringe from his back pocket and uncapped the needle, before charging Itachi and stabbing his eye. His eyes shot open and turned into the Mangekyo form. Naruto filled the syringe a fourth of the way, before recapping it and sticking it back in his back pocket. Now that that's over with, I'll give Death 5 lives, he said, sheathing his sword. The leader laughed. And how exactly can you do that without drawing your sword? I wasn't finished, he said, drawing his sword again. When I sheathed it, I dipped it into the darkest pits of hell. Now that I draw it again, it brings the burning flames with it, he said, grinning, before extending his shield to Itachi. Deidara had stopped his stupid bird attack, and was watching in shock. Goodbye, Akatsuki, he said, putting the sword next to his shoulder, the flames dancing merrily, as though they knew that they were going to get to kill, and swung his sword outwards and across. Shinigami Jigoujitoku. Death gods reaping, he cried, the black flames burning a hole that seemed to lead to hell itself. Akatsuki's screams were quickly silenced by the flames. The blast could be seen for thousands of miles away. All of Fire Country saw it. Konoha was in a frenzy. Tsunade's door blasted open to find her laughing like a maniac as the council members ran in. What, might I ask, is so funny? It's a time of joy. Akatsuki's dead, she said, pulling out a bottle of sake and filling up glasses, before handing them out. I told you Naruto would kill them. One of the members dropped their glass, only to have it caught by Tsunade. These glasses are one of a kind. I only break them out on special occasions, she said, handing it back to the councilman. The rest drank deeply, glad the threat was gone. The door broke back open to reveal a fox, carrying a scroll, a leather bag, and a vial whose cork had a string run through it. The member closest to the door reached down to take the items, and quickly drew his hand back as the fox growled, then snapped at him, before running over to Tsunade. She took the items from the fox, who yipped. She grinned and scratched its ear. The little fox purred, then poofed into smoke. Well, what does the scroll say? Said the one who nearly got bit. Tsunade. The council's probably in a frenzy right now after that black light. It was actually fire from hell, but same difference. Tell them to start sharpening their axes, because I'll be back with Sasuke before the end of the month. I'm taking a day to recover, before moving on to Sound Village. Sakura and them WIVVCLL have their other Uchiha back in no time flat. Oh, and you'll be missing Asani when I get back also. Hitomi's about to kill me for playing around before killing the leader. She needs to learn to enjoy life. I've released Shukaku, who went to seek Gaara. The other 2 were just set free, and went back to the demon realm. Also, tell those idiots of a council to quit screaming, I won't do that to their precious little village. Also, tell them, she laughed. Tell them their precious Uchiha Itachi is dead. The vial of blood is proof. It came directly from his eye. I've set it so that once it's identified as Itachi's it'll burn. Oh, and just try to use it on someone. See what happens. A manically laughing fox was drawn here. Naruto. P.S. I need your advice on engagement rings. She finished reading it aloud, and the council obviously wasn't happy. They stormed from the room, after setting their glasses on the table. Shizune and Sakura walked in, concern etched in both of their faces. The Godem handed a glass to both of them. What happened? They finally fire you? Shizune asked, grinning at her joke, but worry was still on her face. Tsunade snorted. I wish. No, they were scared out of their little undies that fire was a threat. That's why we came, said Sakura. Tsunade tossed the scroll to her. Sakura's face hardened at the handwriting, as she read the note, and Shizune read over her shoulder. Sakura started laughing. That's a funny joke. Naruto. Dobi defeating Itachi, Orochimaru, Akatsuki, Sasuke and being the cause of that fire. It was a few thousand miles away. He's too weak. You hear about the Desu Decchi? Sakura nodded. You heard about him coming to Konoha and us trying to capture him? She nodded again. That was actually Naruto. Tsunade said simply. Sakura laughed harder. This is a joke. It's got to be. There's no way the dumbass could ever. She stared wide-eyed as Tsunade lined up 9 rings. Akatsuki rings to be exact. No. No way. She looked back at the scroll. And this, Hitomi. Who's she? The Kyuubi. They're quite heavily involved, according to the PS he put on there. He's mad. He's absolutely mad. He'll do that, she yelling, pointing at the fire that was still burning the air. To Sasuke. Just then a giant blast of ice shot up, and froze the flames in place, before what looked like they were being sucked into a tube. So that's really Naruto. She said in awe, watching the flames disappear. I'm going to find him. She said, running out the window as fast as she could. A council member ran in with an overjoyed look on his face. She's not a nuke. Nin, don't you dare. Tsunade screamed at the man, who ran out of the room with a mix of disappointment and fear on his face. Okay, I need to warn you guys of a few things. First of all, there's only a handful of chapters left. I think, including the bonus features chapter, there's going to be 23 or 24 in all. Second, I'm going to bring back the Yondaime. But he won't play a major role at all. He's mostly just there for comic relief. Sakura ran, pushing chakra into her legs to force them to move faster. She knew it was a few hundred miles, but thanks to Tsunade, she learned how to travel fast and far, using almost no chakra. Naruto set up camp after he sealed the fire into a scroll. Hitomi had gone out to catch a rabbit, quite happy because she hadn't been able to hunt as a fox in a while. Naruto had erected a house of wood and roots, and was getting things set up in it. Like food. He needed food. He heard Hitomi outside, and stepped out, only to see the flash of a shinobi headband. Jumping into the forest, he let his half-demon form show itself, due to the fact that he wasn't in the mood to fight. Naruto felt the black fur appear across his body, and his tails and ears spout out. Drawing his sword, Naruto leapt behind the person and placed his sword to the girl's neck. Sakura had been running for about an hour or two before she found a house made of wood. Inspecting closer, she found it was actually a house made of tree roots, which meant that a shinobi had made it. She saw the door open, and jumped back, hiding behind a tree. She looked out from behind a branch, and found the door wide open, but no one there. Stepping out from behind the tree, she felt the cool metal of a sword press against her windpipe and jugular vein. A little more force, and she would be dead in seconds. Konoha Nin, have you come for a bounty? I've just killed Akatsuki, do you honestly think you'll be a problem? Desu Decchi. Sama? She asked, not daring to say his name. She felt him nod. I'm not here for a bounty. I've never even purchased a bingo book. He let the sword drop, and sheathed it, before pulling it back out. It was burning with black flames. See those flames? She nodded slowly. If you're lying to me, these flames would burn your body and drag your soul down to hell. She felt a chill cascade through her body at the words. Naruto wasn't the carefree little kid anymore. That was for sure. It's Sakura Haruno. Naruto nearly dropped the sword, but tightened his grip. No point in setting a forest on fire. Sheathing his sword, he pushed her away. You're no threat, no matter how strong you've gotten. Why are you bothering me? I'm not going to get your precious Sasuke for another few days. Sakura growled in frustration and slammed her fist into his head. I'm not here for him. She followed through on her punch, just like Tsunade taught her. However, Naruto didn't as much as blink. Her fist connected, but he didn't even budge. Just like I thought. And I almost wasted chakra putting up a shield. He snorted. Never mind, I can't waste chakra anymore. She blinked in surprise. How can you not waste chakra? You'd have to have an endless supply. And I do. She stared wide-eyed. You really aren't Adobe, are you? What gave you that idea? He said, sarcastic, but his eyes glowed icy blue. You're different. The understatement of the year. I'm sorry. Why should you be? I chased you out of the village, made you responsible for Sasuke. I should have gone and tried to get him myself, not ask you to do it. You would have died. He would have taken a Chidori and shoved it through your heart. Just like he did me. I was wrong. You aren't a demon. I just said that because I wanted to make you feel bad. She really did sound sorry. I wasn't a demon. Look at me. I am a demon now. Boyfriend to the Queen of Demons, might eventually be the King of Demons. The title suits you. She said, sniffing suddenly, before launching herself at him, and burying her head in his chest. He saw Hitomi poke her head out of the forest, and started to charge at Sakura. Naruto shook his head, and waved her off. She stuck her tongue out and dropped the rabbit, before going back into the forest, probably to find another. He looked back down at the girl who had her head in his chest, crying her eyes out. He sighed slightly. He always did have problems with crying girls. Naruto put a hand on her back and rubbed it. It's okay. He said quietly, not really sure of what to say. She just shook her head. No, sniff, it's not. Sniff. A sob escaped before she continued. It's all my fault, Sniff, you left. You did me a favor. I couldn't have gotten as strong as I am now if I hadn't left. Hitomi's trained me in ways that would have gotten me thrown out of the village anyway. Plus, they've been looking for ways to kill me for an eternity now. What's really gonna piss them off is when I take the role of Rokudan. He said, grinning. She gave him a brief smile, before stepping back, and looking him over. I was talking about your height before. But you've really changed. She reached up to scratch one of his ears. He tried to suppress a purr. She reached for one of his tails, but he jerked it away. Unless you want to hear the almighty Desu Decchi purr, don't do that. She lunged and grabbed on, before petting it. It's soft. Holy crap, you really are purring. She said, laughing at the peaceful look on his face. Hitomi was suddenly behind her, with her own sword against Sakura's neck. I'm the only girl who gets to touch his tails. Drop it. She said, menacingly. She dropped the tail, and Naruto stopped purring. This is my girlfriend, Hitomi. He said, pointing at her. She bowed. Naruto retracted his fur. Konnichiwa, Hitomi. Sama. Just Hitomi. Last time I called her that, she nearly killed me. He muttered, knowing Hitomi would hear him. Shut up, Kit. Kit? Ah, what a cute name. She said, patting Naruto's head. He tried to bite her, but she pulled her hand back. Yes, Kit is such a cute name. Can I call you that from now on, Dobi? Said a snickering voice. He turned to see Orochimaru and Sasuke walking out from the trees. Naruto sighed and made a hand seal. The house went back underground. I don't suppose you came for dinner and a movie, before going back to Konoha quietly, did you? Sakura looked on in surprise. How could he speak to them so lightly? Hitomi grabbed Sakura's hand and pulled her away. Naruto's tails and fur reappeared. This time, claws shot from his fingers as well. Fine then, let's make sport of this. He said, grinning. 2 1-on-1 matches. Sakura gasped, thinking she was getting dragged into this. I'll go against Orochimaru, then I'll go against Sasuke. Sasuke grinned. Fine. But first. He motioned for Hitomi to come over. She jogged over to him, and took the syringe he handed her. He held his eye open as she stuck the needle in it, injecting half the syringe's blood in his eye, then repeating the process with his other eye. Naruto grinned. I now possess Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan, thanks to the Yondaime's blood that runs through me, which contains a bloodline. Sasuke stared at him wide-eyed. I take the blood from a bloodline, I get the bloodline. How did you get my brother's blood? With a syringe, right before he died. Naruto said, grinning sadistically. You're lying. How could you? Because I'm the Desu Decchi. Naruto said, drawing his sword. Orochimaru grinned. The Desu Kuraikako. I feel honored to see it. Orochimaru said, clearly mocking him. Hitomi. She nodded and disappeared in a plume of smoke. Sasuke, I trust Sakura can stand by you, and you won't try to kill her. He sighed and nodded. If she tries to hug me, she dead. Deal. Sakura frowned at Naruto, but walked over next to Sasuke and sat down. He sat down beside her. This will be interesting, he said, grinning. She nodded. Naruto activated his newly acquired Sharingan and looked at Sasuke. Don't bother trying to copy my movements, Sasuke. They can't be copied, even by the Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke sighed and deactivated his Sharingan. Sakura stood up. On. Start. She cried, jumping back to her seat beside Sasuke. Orochimaru grinned and immediately did a 5-prong seal on him. Naruto just laughed. I'm not using her chakra, he said, grinning, before doing a 5-prong seal release. Orochimaru growled and pulled out his own sword. Naruto pulled out a scroll. I did tell Chan I'd send her your head, but she didn't say anything about your body, he said, grinning, before going through some hand seals and slamming them into Orochimaru's chest. He wheezed, before visibly aging. Specifically aging 19 years. He'd have to thank Kakashi later for giving him those years. Looking Orochimaru over, he laughed under his breath. Dude, you don't age well. Which reminds me. Guess how old I'm going to live to be? Come on, guess. Jeopardy, which I don't own. Music started playing. 85? Wrong. 12? What the? Wrong. I give up. Can you say a good few millennia? Orochimaru screamed like a little girl and started throwing a temper tantrum. Sasuke stared in shock. After all that, Naruto was still stronger than him. After all the training and hard work, yet it was obvious Naruto was just playing around. Sasuke jumped up, scaring Sakura, who'd forgotten he was there. How are you still stronger than me? He screamed. Naruto's eyes turned cold as ice. I had a kitsune canine filled with blood and laced with poison naturally produced from the fangs stabbed into my heart. Then I had my eyes, ears, nose, and esophagus destroyed, and they were replaced with new ones grown slowly by my body. This was after I had every protein in my body replaced with proteins from a demon. After that, I was trained with a few 100,000 pounds. And that was with my tenketsu sealed shut. Sasuke's eyes widened. Eventually, they were all opened, opening my way to a bottomless chakra supply. I nearly died just trying to get control of it, he said, smiling sadly. Sasuke stared with hatred. But Sakura stared in shock. All of that, just for recognition. He'd nearly died. And they wanted to try and execute him? That's when Sakura understood. That's why Tsunade was so relaxed about them killing Naruto. Because they couldn't. He was invincible. Naruto turned back to Orochimaru. You're dead, he said simply, sheathing his sword. Then drawing it back out, it was burning with black flames. Now, if I activate the same technique I used to wipe out Akatsuki, everything and everyone in the area would be destroyed, and I don't want that for the fear of being redundant. Orochimaru grinned, thinking he would get to survive. Kachiyose. Edo Tensai. Orochimaru said, as a single coffin rose from the ground. On it was the kanji for 4. Naruto gasped, knowing who it was for, and undid his weight seals. Orochimaru did the seal to restore the 4th's appearance, but couldn't finish the seal needed to remove his emotions, because he no longer had any hands. Or arms for that matter. You will not do that to my father. I refuse to fight him. Naruto roared, panting from the pain of moving without his weights. Orochimaru stared in fear. He just lost his arm again, and hadn't seen Naruto move at all. Sasuke hadn't even been able to see him move. How did you activate your gates without making a seal? Sakura asked. Naruto grinned. Because I didn't use my gates. That was from a few tons of weights. The problem is, I can move fast without my weights, but the strain on my body is 10 times worse than Lee's. Arashi stood there, watching on. Seeing as he'd just be resurrected with no strings attached, he looked over at Naruto. Hey son. Not now Otou. San. He said, sheathing his sword one more time, only this time, when he drew it, the sword was silver. This is untested. I don't know what it will do. You'll make a nice test subject, Orochimaru, he said, sticking the sword at the ground. He held it next to Orochimaru's neck. The man was screaming from the heat it was putting off. Naruto finally sighed and let the sword slide through the snake's neck. The smell of burning flesh filled the air, making the audience hold their noses. Shoving Orochimaru's head in a duffel bag, Naruto punted it beside Sasuke, who got up to fight. That was where the real battle begins. The one that would put Naruto and Sasuke in the history books as part of Konoha. So, for old time's sake, want to take this back to where it began? Sasuke asked, grinning. They both knew that one of them wasn't coming out of this standing or more likely, alive. Naruto grinned. To the valley of the end it is. They both nodded, before turning and walking away, Naruto after picking up the bag with Orochimaru's head in it. He looked back at Arashi and Sakura. Unless you want to miss out on this fight, I'd suggest you come, because we aren't waiting. With that, he jumped into a tree and sped off. Arashi grinned and followed after them, Sakura right behind him. They landed, and Arashi pulled out a scroll, and quickly scribbled something down, before stretching it out, the writing facing the lake. Ah. Excuse me Yondaime. Dono. Arashi laughed and rubbed the back of his neck. Sakura's breath caught in her throat. He looked exactly like Naruto. Please, call me Arashi. Dono is a little too much for me. Arashi. What is that for? Huh? He realized she was pointing at the scroll. Oh. It's a recording scroll. A personal creation. See that circle in the middle? He said, pointing at it. She nodded. It acts as a camcorder. Then it writes the stuff it records onto the scroll so it can be watched or read. Amazing. He nodded. It's starting. She looked down and noticed it was indeed starting. A blue flash appeared in her line of vision, and she looked at Arashi. In case it gets a little too dangerous. Always trust a nice barrier. She laughed slightly, then turned serious, looking down at the two. So Naruto, you sure this is a fair fight? After all, you have unlimited chakra. Mine is equal to yours if it were limited. If you would, just to make it fair. Sasuke left his sentence hanging. Naruto took 2 fingers and jabbed himself in certain places in the stomach. We're even, but if you release your 3rd level seal, which I know you've come up with by now, I release my chakra. Or even your 2nd level, I release my chakra. Sounds fair. Let's go. Naruto nodded, and laughed as Sasuke started a Chidori. Really is just like old times. He gasped as Sasuke shoved his hand into his chest. You've gotten faster. Die. Sasuke ripped Naruto's heart from his chest. Sakura gasped and gagged at the sight of the still beating heart. The remaining blood inside the heart squirted out, before it finally quit. Sasuke grinned. You underestimated me. He said, doing a fire jutsu on the heart, just for the hell of it. No, you underestimate me Sasuke. Said Naruto standing up. Through the hole in his chest, you could see the beating side of a heart. Sasuke roared in anger and ripped it out again. This time Sakura vomited her lunch. Arashi quickly used the barrier to push it off into the lake, and handed her a bag. That was disgusting. They both said at the same time, talking about 2 totally different things. Naruto just laughed, his heart growing back faster this time. Sasuke roared and ripped it out again. He did this a few more times before Naruto growled and kicked him away. It grows back, quit ripping out my heart. He screamed. I noticed. Sasuke grumbled, picking himself up off the ground. Sasuke grinned and activated his Sharingan. Naruto grinned and activated his own Sharingan. He infused it with his own chakra and something amazing happened. The 3 colon-shaped pupils reshaped into slits. Much like Naruto's center pupil. The Sharingan no Za Kitsune. Sharingan of the Fox. Naruto said grinning. More powerful than the Mangekyo Sharingan, and has. A 4th slitted pupil appeared, budging the other 3 over to make room. 4 pupils instead of 3. He turned it to the Mangekyo Sharingan no Za Kitsune. And a 4th wheel. Sasuke growled. Naruto was still more powerful, even with limited chakra. Almost too powerful. What are you? No mortal could ever get so powerful. Naruto laughed. Because I'm not a mortal. I'm the Shu no Kyuubi, king of demon foxes, he said, laughing at the look on Sasuke's face. Sasuke growled and entered his third level seal. 2 horns spouted from his forehead and another from each elbow. His 2 gigantic wings shot out of his back. Naruto grinned, unlocking his full chakra. Sasuke pulled out Kusanagi and formed a Reikiri. Forcing the 2 together, he formed a sword that was glowing with the electric energy. Naruto grinned. Fine then. We're starting with Kenjutsu. With that, Naruto pulled out his Desu Kuraikaku. Sasuke grinned and charged Naruto. Naruto swung his blade up and blocked his blow. Forming a one-hand demon seal, Naruto released a fourth of his weights. Swinging his blade, Naruto cut through the horns on his forehead. They grew back as Sasuke swung again. Naruto jumped back and sheathed his sword before pulling it back out. It was silver again. Gonna kill me, Naruto? You have to take me back alive, remember? He said, laughing. However, his laughter was cut short as his Reikiri, Kusanagi, broke into. Naruto's blade faded back to its normal black color. Sasuke just growled and punched Naruto, who jumped out of the way, but was stabbed with Sasuke's elbow. Kicking him in the back, Sasuke shot away from Naruto. Forming a Rasengan made of black chakra, Naruto took aim for the still soaring Sasuke and fired. The black ball shot off, but was caught by Sasuke, who threw it back. Naruto held his hand up and absorbed the ball. Sasuke finally caught himself and charged Naruto again, who just stood there. Sasuke ran through some seals and blasted Naruto point blank. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire Dragon Flame Missile, he continued it for a few seconds. Sakura gasped. Sasuke ended it and Naruto just stood there, unscathed. Want to try that again? With that, he slammed his interlocked hands into Sasuke's head, sending him to the bottom of the lake. Naruto plunged a tail into the water, and a few seconds later, Sasuke was within its grasp, being sent into the side of the valley. Sasuke was lying on top of the water, gasping for breath. Then, he stood up and charged Naruto again, slamming his foot into Naruto's stomach. Naruto flew into the side of the valley, leaving a much bigger hole than Sasuke did, thanks to his weights. However, Naruto came out with a barrier of black chakra surrounding him, much like the red chakra did in their first fight, except this time there was an outline of 9 tails, and the fur on his ears had turned black, the tips turning white. Naruto charged Sasuke, Rasengan ready, and was met head-on with Sasuke's Habitaku Chidori, flapping 1,000 birds. Arashi quickly made a tiger seal, enforcing the barrier. Sakura looked at him in confusion. This ain't gonna be pretty, he said, winking as the shield enforced itself. Sakura spared a glance at him before looking back at the 2 boys. Their attacks were evenly matched, but they still fed more chakra into it. Sasuke knew that if he didn't find a way to end it quick, he was going to run out of chakra before Naruto, seeing as he had endless amounts of it. However, at that time, a spark shot from his Habitaku Chidori, going straight to the center of Naruto's Rasengan. The resulting explosion was just like that of their first battle. Except this time, they both had the strength to get up. Enough warm up. Let's start the real thing. Sasuke nodded, his wings becoming rigid. Naruto released his half-demon form, and the outlines made by his chakra were filled with actual tails. Then the outline of a 10th tail pushed outwards, creating room for his 10th tail. Sakura stared, shocked. Naruto was in fact the most powerful thing in existence. He was the first to reach the 10th tail. Just then he sighed. 1 second. Sasuke's serious face turned to one of confusion as a beautiful girl came into existence beside him. Thanks, Kit. It's really boring to watch from your eyes. I'll be over there. With that, Hitomi hopped up the side of the valley, and Arashi granted her entrance from the side of the barrier, then extended it to cover the third body. Okay, sorry. She's been nagging me to let her out this whole time, he said, sighing. Sasuke sighed and shook his head. Even in the middle of battle, he was still a complete idiot. Let's just get this done. Sasuke growled. Naruto nodded. Sasuke decided that it was time to take offensive. So, Naruto? What do you think will happen when they take me back, say you win? Naruto looked at him, confusion playing his face. We'll never be a team again. They'll kill us both, and Sakura will be left all alone. Naruto growled, swinging a clawed hand at him. Except because you're a Kyuubi, you'll live. Naruto's eyes widened in realization. But I don't have those powers. So I won't come back, like you. He kicked Naruto in the head, sending him into the water. Shut up. Naruto screamed as he kicked Sasuke in the stomach, sending him soaring. Sakura stared in shock. Sasuke was right. They won't kill you. They'll kill the demon, saying you had a good reason for leaving. You're their precious Uchiha. The only Uchiha left. Sasuke rushed at Naruto and grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. No. You're lying. If I'm the only one left, then that means Uchiha Itachi is dead. I killed him with relative ease. Sasuke stared in shock. What was the point of getting stronger if he no longer had a target? You took my only reason for living. He said, tears starting to stream down his face. What am I supposed to live for now? What's the point of my existence? To fight you and die? Sasuke screamed. Naruto growled. Sasuke shook his head. No, wait. If I defeat you, then I've basically defeated my brother and his defeater. Sasuke grinned, his insanity showing. Naruto roared at his stupidity. You idiot. Don't you understand? You never had a chance against your brother. You don't have the power you need to kill him. You killed me multiple times over, but I can't die, you understand? He screamed. Then Sasuke realized something. Wait. I killed you. That means I killed my best friend. Sasuke started laughing like a maniac. Naruto's eyes widened in realization. How could he have been so stupid as to let Sasuke kill him? Sasuke's eyes swirled, the colons of his eye morphing into a large pinwheel shape. I've still got another flag. You only have 3. Sasuke grinned. It's more than enough to send you to hell. Naruto screamed and drew his sword, slicing through the seal and removing it from Sasuke's back. Then Naruto took a scroll and sealed the skin and Orochimaru's chakra from the heaven seal into it. He sighed and shook his head. Great. Now Sasuke had the Mangekyo. Just what he needed. Picking Sasuke's now unconscious body up, he got up and let his 1/3 demon form go, transforming to his half-demon form. Tailless, but he still had his long kitsune ears. Let's go home, he said, throwing Sasuke over his shoulder. Hitomi picked up Orochimaru's duffel bag, being named that as his head was in it, and they set for home, after Arashi stopped the recording scroll. Sakura looked at him in fear as they ran. Don't give me that look. I had to do what I had to do, he said, mistaking her face for one of anger, after slowing down enough to keep even with her speed. I know. I was harsh because I was trying to knock some sense into him. He deserved it, she said, moving a few inches away from him as she leapt to the next branch. He looked at her in confusion, then realized what was wrong. I scared you. It wasn't a question. She nodded. I'm sorry. But a demon isn't cute and cuddly. Not even Sasuke scared me. He's a demon. Or he was with that seal. But you. I've seen you mad. I've seen you angry. That I can live with. But then. You weren't just mad, you were furious. Not to mention you're officially the most powerful being on the planet. Or the universe. He sighed. I know. It's creepy to know that that little idiot of a kid is so powerful now. And you don't look a day over 16. How'd that happen? We were both the same age when you left. Is it your Kyuubi powers? He grinned. No. I have a deal with death that was made when I picked this sword up. I didn't even know about it until I killed Akatsuki. If I kill with Shinigami Jigujitoku, however many lives I give to him, he subtracts that many years from my age. She stared in awe. If this continued, he could stay a certain age without ever aging. And there were so many enemies out there that he would never age. But I don't want to kill unless I have to, he said, as though he read her thoughts. Sighing, he saw Konoha coming into sight. Time to face death. Naruto stopped talking to her and was instead talking to all of them. Oto-san, put on a disguise as anyone. I don't care who. Just not me. I'm going straight to Tsunade's office. I'll have to move where they won't see me, and coming in with you will get me caught. He said the last part to Sakura. They both nodded, and Naruto took the bag that Hitomi offered him, then dispelled her. Making a quick seal, he shot off at a speed that neither of their eyes could keep up with. Tsunade sighed. Naruto had been gone for what felt like an eternity. Of course, she didn't mind. For the moment, she had all the time in the world. But she did miss her Oni-chan. Just then, the door opened and slammed shut, but there was no one in the room. Standing up, she looked over her desk, and saw Naruto sitting on the ground, panting. That's what sucks about being a nuke. Nin. I can't go anywhere without being chased down, and it really hurts when I have to move that fast. He said, standing up. Tsunade grinned. Guess what? The council's going to try to kill you. Naruto stared blankly at how happy she seemed over this. You'll die, come back because of your kitsune blood, and then you'll have paid your dues and you're off the hook. She tossed him a small bottle of sake, which he grinned at. Been needing a drink. Oh, by the way, I need to see the council. She gave him a confused look. He held up a duffel bag and Sasuke. I changed my mind about sending them, seeing as someone else would have taken credit and I would have my head on a stump. Tsunade grinned as he drank the whole bottle in one gulp. It was about the size of the one she gave Lee by accident. They're in a meeting right now about what to do with you. She broke out laughing. Their best idea is to send a group of hunter nin, disguised as genin, to try and kill you, thinking you'll underestimate the genin. Naruto started laughing. Then he grinned and activated his Sharingan no Za Kitsune. She looked him in the eye and gasped. How do you get it? She screamed, he assumed in joy, and hopped over her desk to get a closer look. She pulled his eyelids open and looked, turning his head at different angles. I'm assuming it's Itachi's? Naruto nodded. Can you do the Mangekyo? Naruto nodded again and activated it. She gasped. Amazing. It's like a four-bladed pinwheel. She said, before backing away and looking at the clock. They're going to dismiss in 10 minutes. Tsunade was in Hokage mode again. The door opened and Sakura and a Cloud Nin walked in. Tsunade looked at them in surprise. Okay, you can drop it now. Naruto said grinning. The Cloud Nin disappeared in a poof of smoke and in his place stood the Yandaime. Tsunade gasped, before glomping him. Arashi grunted as they hit the floor. Tsunade. Can you come with me? He said, looking down at her, the amusement clearly showing on his face. She looked confused and shocked. Confused as to why he wanted her to come with him, and shocked that he called her Tsunade. Nodded, she pushed herself off Arashi, using his stomach, which made him grunt, and followed him. Sasuke was still unconscious, and probably would stay that way for a long while. They walked up a flight of stairs, and Tsunade made to knock on the door, but Naruto beat her to it. With his foot. What is the meaning of this Su? The man that was screaming stopped when he saw Naruto walk in. What are you so mad about? I knocked. Just with my foot. Naruto was grinning sadistically. Tsunade didn't know when he brought out his kitsune features, but he had fur now that looked really soft. She had to resist the urge to touch it. The council man was speechless, but caught the duffel bag tossed to him nonetheless. These are my bartering tools. I want to use it to lower my punishment. They still didn't notice Sasuke, seeing as they were staring in shock at Orochimaru's face that was twisted in a scream. Tease. Tsunade. Cried the man holding his head. Please identify this. It is probably a fake. Tsunade nodded and caught the bag tossed to her. So that was why he wanted her with him. I see you've lost all control of your fox. Naruto grinned. Time to win a Grammy. Oh yes. I lost control and had to go through a long hard sealing process that finally sealed it, but I can't subdue the features without a genjutsu. Then Naruto pushed all of their papers off the table and laid Sasuke down on it. And here's your precious Uchiha. He didn't bother in setting his head down, and it made a loud thunk when it hit. You killed him, screamed someone from the top riser. He's just unconscious. Liar. Tsunade. Check him too. Tsunade growled, but threw the head at the loud-mouthed councilman. It's the real thing. That's Orochimaru's melted stump of a head. She stuck her head to Sasuke's chest. And yes, Sasuke's alive. Someone in the top riser's corner who'd been silent so far suddenly spoke up. So that chakra spike I felt earlier was Sasuke? Naruto laughed. Good to see you really did get somewhere, Neji. I always did think you'd make a great council member. But no, the chakra spike wasn't him. I sort of lost my temper and sent him a good few feet into the side of the Valley of the End. Neji grinned a little. The beginning and the end in the same place. How fitting. I see. Yes, you've brought back 2 nuke. Nin, and you're 1 yourself. So you've basically returned 3 nuke. Nin, all S. Class. That's mighty impressive. For that, I'll let you choose how you'll be killed. I want an axe across the middle of my stomach. He replied instantly. And also, I don't want to be held in a cell. I would like to be able to move freely within the village and spend time with my father. Your father is dead. Naruto grinned as another figure walked through the door. Hey Tsunade, where do you hide your sake? Under the desk there's a hidden compartment. Okay, thanks. And with that, he left, leaving the Konoha council in shock for the 3rd time today. You want to rethink that? Fine. Said the lead man angrily. I'll accept all of your requests. I wasn't done. I want Sasuke to walk free. He'll be returned his status of genin with no charges pressed. The council man nodded. Fine. It's done. Your execution will occur on the 15th at 3 o'clock. Naruto nodded, before picking up the duffel bag and Sasuke. I'm going to get Orochimaru's head stuffed and I'm going to use it as a trophy. He announced as he stepped through the doorway. Tsunade grinned triumphantly at them as she turned and walked out. After they walked out of hearing range of the room, Tsunade turned on him to ask a question, but instantly had her lips pinched together by Naruto, who was shaking his head before leading her back to her office. He placed his usual seals on the room before turning to her. Can you explain that again? You lost me. Tsunade said. I'm going to be executed on the 15th at 3. Sakura and Shizune gasped, and Arashi's face hardened. But that's in 2 days. Sakura cried, standing up. I know. Naruto said, his voice still upbeat. How can you be so relaxed about your death? Because it's not going to happen. I'm going to die, and then I'll come back. It's pretty simple actually. So why did you want to have an axe taken to your stomach? You said it as though you had it all planned out. Naruto's face hardened. I do. He stopped. And that's all you need to know. If I tell you, well, I don't know what you might do, so I'll go with not telling you. But I need you guys to act like I'm really gonna die. Actually, now that I think of it, there's a slim chance that I actually will die. He said slowly. Sakura was going to say something, but she was cut off. Hey kid, you do realize that you proposed, right? Multiple times. What? Everyone stared at him. It's Hitomi. When did you propose? Naruto's eyes widened. You can. Yes, they can. I'm projecting myself. You don't like it, tough. But you've called yourself king of the demons quite a few times recently. However, that would suggest you're married to the queen of the demons. Right now, you're still court jester. All the girls started snickering at that, but Arashi broke out laughing. Shut up. Naruto's face was deep red. Ah, it's okay kid. But you still have a minor problem with you pretending to be married to me. You're not. Naruto sighed, before slamming his fist into his head and falling unconscious. He stood back up in Hitomi's bedroom. Okay, I'm here. But I'm still not proposing. I'm just not ready. He said sighing. She tackled him. I wanted you in here. Thanks so much Kit. He looked on in confusion. For what? No reason. About 15 minutes later, Naruto sat up. Okay, sorry about that. She was going to keep embarrassing me until I visited her. Just then a sand village eagle tapped on the window. Tsunade opened it and reached out to take the message, but it went over her and dropped its message to Naruto, before going out the window. He broke the seal and read it, before setting fire to it. Seems Gaara and Shukaku have successfully joined. He's got full control over his sand again. Tsunade nodded. And this time, it seems Shukaku's letting him sleep. That's definitely an improvement. Tsunade nodded again. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to my apartment. He caught the keys Tsunade tossed to him. It's clean, and is freshly stocked with food. Of course, the genin had to file some workers' comp after the mission, which was afterwards declared an S. Class mission. Tsunade said, shaking her head. Even some of the Anbu couldn't go in there. But it was finally cleaned up, and was restocked just yesterday. Naruto nodded and started to walk out, before looking back in. You guys want to come over to eat tonight? I can cook. They all nodded. Invite Kakashi too if you see him. Arashi got up and followed him, swaying a little from the sake he'd been drinking the whole time they were talking. That night, Naruto prepared his best dishes. Everyone showed up, Kakashi by a string being held by Tsunade that was attached to a rather uncomfortable place because he was late. They ate. Everyone seemed amazed at the fact that he could cook, and they enjoyed the return of an old comrade. Oh, Kakashi, I almost forgot. I owe you for the oldness you gave me. Here. He tossed him the newest Icha Icha tactics book, that had yet to have been released, which he received a copy of thanks to his connection with Jiraiya. Kakashi nearly fainted, and immediately started reading it. Naruto walked into his room after everyone left and plopped down on his bed. Glad to be back in his own home, he fell asleep quickly. The next day he got up and made himself breakfast, before getting bored. Yeah, being at home was boring, and getting more so quickly. Suddenly, Naruto got an idea. He released his full Yukai form, and in his place stood a short three-tailed fox. Short, meaning for a Kyuubi. He was actually about shoulder high on the Yondaime on all fours, which he stayed on because it was too much of a pain to try to walk on his back legs in this form. His stomach fur was white, as were the tips of his tails, but the rest of his body was covered in black fur. Going through the seals in his head, Naruto let Hitomi out in her demon form. They were both three tails, but it was obvious she was the female of the two, due to the fact that she was much shorter than him. My, aren't we handsome today? Hitomi thought while walking a short circle around Naruto, which transferred over to Naruto's head. I try. And with that, they both left, with no reason other than to cause panic in the village. Walking down the streets, adults screamed and one grabbed their child by the neck and threw them head first through a closed door in an attempt to get in as quickly as possible. The Anbu who knew Naruto were laughing their heads off at the villagers' reactions. The council had ordered Tenten and Ino to keep an eye on anything Naruto did. Neither of the Kunoichi had wanted to be Anbu, so they had stuck with Junin, but were still sometimes given Anbu missions. One kid finally ran up and jumped out Naruto's back. Naruto just kept going until the child ripped a hair out. Then Naruto howled and bucked the child off, who was caught by Tenten, using some kunai and a net. Sorry. Naruto said. It was there, but hard to hear. He pulled out some hairs. Tenten nodded, set the boy on the ground, and disappeared. They continued down the street until they ran into Kiba. Ooh. 2 big foxes. Must be stupid and stupid. Hitomi roared and nearly ripped his leg off. Naruto had to tackle her to get her to let go of him. Kiba got up and limped around the two, looking them over. I see why a fox demoness loves you, he said, winking. Naruto growled and was about to finish Hitomi's job, but Kiba put his hands up as a sign of innocence. I'm kidding, he said, laughing slightly. So why are you two like that anyway? Naruto turned human and stood up. Have you seen the villagers? They're freaking out. I haven't had this much fun since Hitomi told me to test my powers in Otto Village. She didn't actually let him, but it freaked Kiba out nonetheless. And who exactly is Hitomi? Hitomi turned human also. I'm Hitomi. Oh. The almighty Kyuubi. Pleasure to meet you. Kiba said, bowing, the sarcasm screaming in his voice. Naruto growled and slammed his fist into Kiba's face. Kiba went soaring into a nearby training ground and flew through a good handful of trees before finally stopping. Naruto caught up to him. Don't pick at me. I'm in a bad mood. Some kid pulled out a handful of hairs. Kiba was just lying on the ground. Naruto sighed and healed his now broken jaw and various other small injuries. Plus, my execution sorta puts me in a bad mood. Kiba sat up and stared wide-eyed at him. You mean you brought back Orochimaru, Sasuke, and turned yourself in, and they still want you dead? That's not right. Nah. Ya, think? Anyway, it's on the 15th at 3. If you want to come, come. I'd suggest you do. With that he went back to his fox form and padded down the street. He finally got bored and went back to his human form. He went to Ichiraku's and ate ramen. Actually, he nearly cleaned them out. So I hear they're executing you. Tucci said sadly. Yup. And you're okay with that? Not gonna try and run away or something? Nope. Why? I have a reason. Tucci sighed and dropped another bowl in front of him. He went to see Hinata at the Hyuga compound. Hanabi was still a royal bitch, just older. What a lovely child. She should be beaten with a large rock. Naruto said, watching her retreating back. Hinata laughed. He left and found Rock Lee on his way out. Lee challenged him to a fight that resulted both of them laying on their backs panting. A few more fights later and the sun was setting. Dragging himself to the hospital, he decided to visit Sakura. Somehow, they became good friends when she visited him. She's apparently gotten an office and didn't just run around anymore. Hey. She said when she saw who he was. Then she groaned when she got a better look at him. What did you do? Well, I met Lee and things just sort of went downhill. Why aren't your kitsune powers helping? They had to fix a handful of broken bones in Kiba. He said, rubbing the back of his head. She sighed and motioned for the shirt to come off. It did and she healed his battered body. There ya go. Where's Sasuke? Right across the hall. He just woke up this morning. Naruto nodded and walked across the hall, Sakura right behind him. Hey there Teme. Naruto said grinned. Sasuke grinned. Dobi. How y'all feeling? Like I was beaten across the valley of the end, then had a section of my shoulder cut off, why? Just curious. By the way, why did the seal stay after Orochimaru died? Sasuke frowned. Because of a backup plan we came up with, should he ever die. I fused my chakra with the seal, and that made it stick. Naruto nodded, showing his understanding. But the insanity was lost when you removed the seal. Plus with Itachi gone, all I have left to live for is to restore my clan. He sat up looking at Sakura. Could you help me with that? She growled and slammed her fist into the top of his head. After what I went through. He nodded. She axe kicked him in an uncomfortable place. I'll get back to you with my answer. She turned and walked out of the room. Naruto was rolling. Oh. That's some funny stuff right there. He said, wiping a tear from his eye. So what's my sentence? Sasuke suddenly asked. You don't have one. Sasuke whipped his head around and examined Naruto's face for any sign of a joke. They're getting to kill their demon child and they just can't kill their Uchiha prodigy. I'm the Uzumaki prodigy. He added, pouting. You're the only Uzumaki left. I know, that's how I'm the best of the Uzumaki clan. Sasuke stared at him, before breaking out laughing. Naruto started laughing just after Sasuke did. This is the sight Tsunade, Shizune, and Sakura walked in to see. Tsunade just shook her head and walked out, going on to the next patient. Hey Sasuke look. Tsunade's losing all her patience. They broke out with renewed laughter at his stupid joke. So what's your sentence? Sasuke asked. Death, tomorrow at 3. Sasuke frowned. Just then, the head councilman poked his head through. Ah good, you're both here. Sasuke and Sakura, I'm proud to announce you're both being raised to the rank of Sannin. Hey, what about me? I'm the most powerful being on the planet, more than enough to defeat the old and new Sannin combined. Naruto said. Sakura and Sasuke both nodded in agreement. For the next 24 hours, that's true. However, after that, we'll replace you. Isn't it fun how these things work? Sasuke leapt from his bed and put his fist in the man's face. Naruto held him back from doing any more damage, while Sakura healed the man's face. I'm assuming the seal is still acting on your judgment a little, Uchiha. San. With that, he turned and left the room. Speaking of my seal, what did you do to it? The medics can't get it to shut. Sasuke said, turning on Naruto. Naruto sighed. I was afraid of that. My sword must have burned the wound open. I can fix it. With that, he ripped the bandage off Sasuke's shoulder, making him gasp. He hated the sticky stuff on bandages. Naruto used his tooth to rip a good-sized hole in his thumb, and bled into the wound. And before you ask, no, this won't do anything but heal you. The blood'll run its course, then you'll pee it out. Sasuke sighed as the pain in his shoulder finally subsided, but gave Naruto a funny look after he finished his sentence, as Naruto turned on his heel, and made his way home. Naruto sat up and watched TV. Before he knew it, he was waking up, the TV still on. Looking at the clock, he saw that he had 3 hours to live. Getting up, he went to his bathroom and showered. He wore no shirt, and only put on his pants. Naruto didn't want blood getting on any of his shirts, or have them hacked in half for that matter. He looked at his clock and found that he still had 2 hours left. Though he wouldn't show it, he was scared. Really scared. What if I don't make it, Hitomi? You're a full-fledged Kyuubi now, Kit. You're no longer relying on my powers. You haven't used them since you began training. Naruto sighed. I'm still scared. Anyway, Sakura wanted me to pick her up. He suddenly thought, trying to get his mind off the subject. Turning towards the door, he headed over to the Haruno residence. After knocking, the door opened, and her mom turned her head towards the stairs, calling her daughter's name. Sakura walked up behind her. Ready to go, Naruto? Yeah. How can you two be so happy? You're about to die. The elder Haruno asked, nodding her head towards Naruto. Just wait until the execution. You'll see. She nodded, and they walked off towards the town square. They got there, and the stage was all set up. A large stump with an axe resting against it. Sakura got a front row seat, while Naruto laid down on the stump. I'm gonna get my stomach cut in half, doodah. Naruto sang quietly. That's not even funny, Naruto. She screeched at him. He just cackled. Sasuke showed up next, followed by Kiba and Hinata, Tuchi and Ayame, Shizune, Tsunade, Ino, Tenten, Lee and the rest of Rookie 9, followed by their senseis. Finally, the council and the executioner showed up. They pulled out some shackles and bound Naruto down. Villagers started to show up and take their seat in the brown metal chairs set out. Some had beer ready in celebration, and Sakura even saw one man setting up fireworks. Today, Uzumaki Naruto is to be executed for treason, resisting arrest, attacking a fellow officer, attacking civilians, attacking council members, going AWOL, attacking the Hyuga head, and murdering a Konoha nin. Really? Who'd I murder? Naruto asked, craning his neck back to look at the man. Orochimaru. What? That's crap. He was in the bingo books. Look in my left pocket, he's in the book. The council member did and found that he was in there. Though he already did know that. The man just wanted Naruto to look worse. His penalty is death by a method of his choice, and he chose an axe to the stomach. Naruto nodded. At least he got that right. The executioner stood and picked the axe up. Now cut right across the seal. The executioner nodded as Naruto formed chakra to show the seal. A drum started in the background as the man reared back and swung down as hard as he could. With a dull thud, the axe hit the stump. Thank you, sir. Naruto said, coughing up some blood. They lifted the shackles off of him and set fire to his legs off the side of the stage. Just then, his half-seal glowed red. Thank you, sir, for releasing Hitomi. A blast of red chakra rose from him in a pillar, as Orochimaru's voice, disguised as Naruto's, rang out. The nine-tailed fox, Kyuubi, also known as Hitomi, can only be released by a fatal blow to the stomach. Naruto convulsed, before finally settling down. The almighty Kyuubi shot from the seal, and turned human in midair. Her chakra shot forth next, hitting her in the chest. All 9 tails shot from her tailbone, and her claws and canine teeth all extended, as fox ears shot out from her head. She stood there grinning like a maniac. "Naruto, your turn," was all she said as his body glowed black, before fading. Suddenly, from his stump of a body, after a loud gasp of breath from Naruto, shot millions of white strings, twisting and turning together to form the bones for legs. Next, red and white strings shot out to make the muscles and tendons. Then skin grew. Tsunade tossed him a pair of pants, which he pulled on with a thankful look on his face. He got them on before his regrowth was complete. Standing up, he was a bit wobbly at first, but quickly regained his balance. Tsunade stood next to him. Naruto has paid his dues. He has died, though only temporarily. All charges have been pressed, and the penalty has been paid. He is now reinstated as a genin, and I'm immediately promoting him to Anbu. I will step down in a month, and Naruto will take my place as the Rokudame, she announced. And Naruto had single-handedly taken on a record-breaking 25s rank missions, beating the old record by 5 missions, as well as had been trained by Tsunade about working as the Hokage. He now stood on top of the Hokage tower, in front of the entire village. I accept the role of Hokage, and hereby pledge to protect this village as long as I feel like doing so. Then I'll quit and let someone else take role. But that probably won't be for a few centuries. A general chuckle went through the crowd, as Arashi and Jiraiya watched, pride evident in their eyes. I'd also like to do something right now. He motioned for Hitomi to come up. She did, and he kneeled down, asking her to marry him. She grinned and shook her head, before saying yes. Naruto, quit worrying so much, she's known you all your life. If she was going to walk out, she'd have done it by now, Sasuke said, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto nodded, and waited. It was the day of his and Hitomi's wedding, and Naruto was ready to wed himself. Sasuke was Naruto's best man, and Naruto's body went rigid as the music started. Jiraiya, Arashi, and Guy had somehow ended up acting as a priest. Naruto still didn't know how that happened. There was only supposed to be one. And they were supposed to be priests. "Okay, Naruto," Arashi said, facing his son. "Do you take this woman to be your wife?" "I do." "And Hitomi, do you take this hip, young dude to be your husband?" Guy asked. "I do," she said. "You may kiss the hot babe of a bride," Jiraiya announced. Naruto glared at the 3 of them, before being pulled into a kiss that had mothers covering their children's eyes. Kiba was getting this on tape, to use as blackmail against Naruto later. Hitomi, on the other hand, was enjoying this. This idea of marriage where you got to kiss just to be married was a great idea. Amazing Humans came up with this. After a minute or two, Arashi cleared his throat loudly, and took the notebook from Jiraiya's hands. Naruto grinned, and they walked back down the aisle. "Told ya," Sasuke muttered to Naruto. At the party afterwards, Hitomi got everyone's attention. "I have an announcement to make. Naruto here is going to be a dad." Everyone hollered and clapped at this, while Naruto screamed like a little girl and fainted on the spot. Kiba was still getting blackmail on him. The great Desu Decchi has just squealed and fainted, he said to Hinata, both who were laughing their heads off. They had already gone through this, and glad that Naruto hadn't had the chance to get stuff on them during their ceremony. Kiba laughed harder when Naruto did it again after coming to and finding out that they were having twins. A boy and a girl. Naruto later walked up to Sasuke, and found him and Sakura making out. And from the looks of things, there would be another wedding and a new start of the Uchiha clan coming soon. Naruto turned and came face to face with Hitomi. "I think they've got the right idea," she said to him, before tackling Naruto. And so, about a week later, Naruto had to get up with Hitomi, who was leaning over a toilet at this moment and puking her brains out. "I hate children," she muttered to Naruto, before she gave another heave over the toilet. Naruto just sighed, and continued rubbing her back, trying to comfort her. After she'd finished her puking, they sat on the couch, doing nothing but enjoying each other's company, due to the fact that Naruto hadn't gotten around to setting up the TV, and Hitomi was determined to make him do it. So how long until? He gave a slight cough. I give birth? Naruto gave a small squeak, making Hitomi laugh. It takes a year for Kyuubis. The extra 3 months are spent getting their kitsune features. Naruto just nodded. And set up the TV, damn it, she said, wanting to get rid of the awkwardness. He just nodded again and got up, walking towards the cable box. In the next few months, there were at least 100 attempts on Hitomi's life. Each assassin was slowly killed, and their dead body was hung by the ankles from the front gate, showing what would happen to the assassins. That seemed to stop the attempts. After Naruto found out it was the Mist who was sending the assassins, he declared war, and was back a week later. The Mist continent was literally wiped off the map. There wasn't even any land left. Hitomi, Jiraiya, Arashi, and Naruto had all taken up residence in the Uzumaki compound after Naruto became Rokudane. At the moment, Naruto was running around squealing. Hitomi's water had just broke, and Sasuke and Sakura were at their house. Sakura said she'd deliver the two, and Sasuke was moral support. For Naruto, he was freaking out worse than Hitomi, who seemed perfectly calm. Sasuke finally punched Naruto because he wouldn't quit. Afterwards, Hitomi was holding a baby girl, while Naruto held a baby boy. Both had kitsune ears, claws, extended canine teeth, and a tail. After a while, they switched off, and Naruto held his daughter, while Hitomi held her son. The girl was named Ren, Water Lily, and the boy was named Jiro. Naruto had 2 swords forged. One like Hitomi's for Ren, and one like his own for Jiro. They grew up as normal as possible for the life of a shinobi. Naruto was sometimes gone for weeks, and would come home battered and bruised, saying his healer was defective, because it always got worn out after resetting a few broken bones. And so, the legend of Uzumaki Naruto, and Uzumaki Hitomi comes to an end. Which happens to be a happy one.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.